Welcome back to Cheche. The discussion still continues here with police spokesman Charles Owino, Judge Kogoro of the Kenya Human Rights Commission Executive Director, of course our panelists, resident panelists Mutegi Njao and David Makali. We're going to look at some footage now. Of the other side, of course, there have been accusations that the protesters have also not been very peaceful in their demonstrations. This, for example, is footage on TV of people allegedly looting a shop that is around Anniversary Towers. It's a restaurant or a bar, I believe. And we had, you can see the people there, the owners of the shop reacting very angrily to the protesters. This is just one of the instances or cases where we've had accusations. This is one of the owners who was explaining. Accusations that we've had the protesters going beyond the limits. So the police also, gentlemen, some say are justified in what they have been doing. We have not been seeing this other side. I think there's a very interesting text here. Somebody says, we are always seeing this man, I think referring to Manono, being beaten. We are never told exactly. We only saw a furious policeman chasing him. We didn't know exactly what transpired before that. Let me start with you, Mutegi.
I think the argument from the opposition, although I'm not their spokesperson, the argument is that they hold peaceful demonstrations.
Yes.
At other hooligans from wherever they come to town. Yes. They pretend they're part of the demonstrations and go and loot. That they themselves are in terms of their interest in politics of removing the IBC. The looters come there and join the demonstration. In fact, go out of the streets. They go to even the off where the Anniversary Towers is. Yes. Go and loot. So you cannot blame them. These are hooligans who take advantage.
First of all, can you blame that then? Okay, you cannot blame the opposition because they say it's not our people, isn't it?
Yeah.
But can you then blame the police for being very hard on such people?
Well, the policemen are supposed to go and arrest them and take them to court. They are not supposed to shoot them. They have not shot anybody in Nairobi.
Yes.
But those people are supposed to be arrested and taken to court, and I think that's
what about okay, and you respond to that about as well. You seeing, okay, we were not there, but for the pictures you see, not one or two or three people, maybe one or two policemen there, and you see about 5 or 10 people coming to loot. How do you arrest them? Do you arrest them, or do you chase them away, or what do you do?
I'm not a policeman, but they know how to do it. But it's a business.
I mean, that is one of the justifications for the police. I'm just trying to raise a point here.
Yeah. But there are two things here. I don't think that we should take too seriously the denials by those who organize the protests that the people who cause problems or who riot and loot are not part of them. Because if you ask them, have they vetted the people who are part of the demonstrations? They will not tell you they have. People join protests out of different interests. Either they're supporting their cause or they have seen an opportunity to loot and enrich themselves or just cause havoc and break the law. Now, the problem, though, is the response that comes with those who break the law. And that's why we have been going to the police. But we finish with the police. They use, they'll go to the extreme to apprehend or stop the criminal acts. I can attest, because I've been at Anniversary Towers a couple of times when this this demonstration picketing has happened. And to say the truth,
not as a protester though.
Not as a protester.
He works for the Electoral Commission.
Okay, I'm there sometimes in different capacities. Okay. Sometimes I'm just a journalist watching to see what's happening, and sometimes in my capacity as an advisor to the IBC, communication advisor. And on one occasion, I did not see the reason why police used the force. These guys had come, they stopped at the gate there, they were rowdy mobs, yes, and along the way, and which is why I don't believe the code leadership when it says they were innocent, among the protesters, some guys began pelting stones, throwing stones at the police. So the police were justified to respond, to make sure that doesn't get out of hand. But the extent of that response is now what is questionable. Because after they have tear gassed them, people will scatter. You have to follow them and beat them. Now that's where the excessive force becomes a problem, because they could apprehend those who had, because if they are protesting and they have dispersed them, there is no criminal action they have performed by being there as protesters. So you can't begin beating them, because then you should have beaten them even before the first stone was thrown, because you have not identified who threw the stone. So going to beat everybody and tear gas them is now where I think, even in terms of police control, they lose out. But then, more importantly, I have seen demonstrations in this country presided over, to use that word, by the police, and they went very well. When CORD held their Sabasaba or post rally at Uhuru Park, initially they were opposed. Police and government said you can't hold that rally, but eventually they allowed the rally to go ahead at Uhuru Park. And they positioned policemen at all the entry points, searching everybody for stones and any implement that could be used to cause harm to anyone else. And people allowed in Uhuru Park, that rally was colorless, because there was no riot, there was nothing that happened. But the police had performed their work. If the police really want to say they want to protect people doing picketing and exercising the constitutional right, why can't they say, okay, you guys want to go there, we're going to screen you there if you have any stones. Set up barriers somewhere and say, look, you want to pass, we search you, you go. Then you go and sit there and picket the whole day. And the kind of picketing that I think is envisaged in the Constitution is where people come to express their grievance or disagreement with anybody and any institution, but quietly they can make noise, they can sing, they can hold placards, but not cause harm or disrupt public life. Can the police facilitate that kind of demonstration or picketing? That is where the point is.
That is where we demand civility in terms of the public. One, if you talk about Uhuru Park, it is a controlled zone. When you talk about anniversary towers, people walking to anniversary towers, some coming from different directions, how do you freeze them? How do you remove the stones from them? And I also told you equally, you know, when you say we are going to forcefully evict, already that one is not peaceful. You ought not to do that. Equally, when you want to send a petition, let's assume you want to send your petition to the chairman of IEBC. What would happen is, you can come as many as you are. Come to anniversary towers, get 20 or 30 of you, we escort you up, present your petition, and come and leave. But you see, if you look at it keenly, I don't think this is the objective of the opposition. For example, when they are tear gassed, they exude a lot of happiness, or even some of these things that have happened. Behind the scenes, some of them are very comfortable because it exposes us. So what we are saying is that there must be civility from the leaders, and there must be also civility from ourselves. But it is important that go through the normal process, notify the police, organize your team, tell us what you want to do. If you want to notify or want to send a petition, send the petition. If you want to demonstrate, move, get to know your route, move, demonstrate, disperse. Because what is the purpose of demonstration? To pass some message. But if you are passing message and also you want to confront, then I think that is not right.
George, do you think there are instances where police have been justified to use force? From what we've been seeing, there have also been people who've gone beyond the limits during the protests.
I think the point that Mutegi made was that if people break the law in the process of protest, they should be arrested and charged in court. I think that's the ideal situation. Having said that, obviously it's a very, very difficult environment. There are very many people, and as has been said, there are people who mingle with the crowd with intentions to undermine the main purpose of the protest, for example. And the best situation would be where the leadership of the protesters is in complete control of their crowd and is telling them what to do and what not to do. But because it's a very fluid and very dynamic environment, it's also very difficult to predict what is going to happen. But the general rule ought to be that if there is law breaking in the process of the protest, either by the protesters or other people who get in their midst, the ideal should be that those people should be arrested and should be charged in court. No circumstances, in my view, would allow people's heads to be broken because they have, for example, looted shops. If you loot a shop, the response can't be that your head should be broken. Then the other point to make is that I think the police inadequately prepare for what they end up facing, and so it forces them to assert themselves, including through the use of excessive force, just to contain the crowd. If you've got a handful of policemen dealing with a large crowd that is highly charged, highly dynamic, it tends to be the case that the police are going to fear that we're going to be overwhelmed. So the individual policeman or the two policemen who find themselves in a situation where they're faced with a large number of people, the temptation to use more force than would otherwise be necessary in order to assert themselves over this crowd becomes understandable. I was at Uhuru Park. I went to witness what was going on in that Sabasaba rally, and the police, that was the first time when the police came out in insufficient numbers, has made it clear that they were in charge, and the crowds that turned up in Uhuru Park, although they were large relatively, the police had such a clear show of force that the crowd knew that in these circumstances, if you joke, you're going to get into trouble or you're going to be arrested. So the crowd generally ended up being peaceful. So the police, there's got to be, the police have an attitude, and this is something that is contained in the Waki report, something what colored their preparations for the 2007 elections, and how then they became seriously overwhelmed by the riots that happened around the country post 2007 elections. The police attitude was, nothing will overtake us. We'll be prepared on the day. We'll be fine on the day. We don't need to prepare. So there is something called preparation, and I'm not a police officer, Mr. Wino is, preparing and scenario setting and responding in theory to the possibilities of all those scenarios. It's something the police have got to do more. They've got to prepare more for how the dynamism of highly mobile crowds is going to manifest itself, and be ready for whatever happens, and have sufficient numbers on the street as would be able to subdue charged crowds. That is not evident, and it's one of the reasons why police then respond with excessive force. Is that something that you find that being a shortcoming factor? Number two, I want to know how practical it is, because what the opposition has been saying, and those against the use of force by police have been saying, is that if you see anybody breaking the law, go and arrest them. Yes. How practical is it during demonstrations? And what are the difficulties the police face?
No, many a times we arrest quite a number of people, but equally, you see, there are also few people who commit crime and they run away. You may never arrest each and every person. What I want to say is that we may have to urge the legal committee in Parliament to look at the Public Order Act and craft what is acceptable within the Constitution that would be able to manage issues on public order, especially when it comes to issues of notifications, when it comes to routes that you want to follow, so that we don't follow any route, because what is our objective of demonstration? Or even the area, specify where you are going to picket. Where are you going to picket, so that we can be able to prepare adequately that this is the specific place that you will picket, this is the route that you will follow during demonstration, and this is the period that you will take. Or even if you will take 5 days or 10 days, it does not matter. So what happens is that the Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament ought to scrutinize the Public Order Act and look at it, what is acceptable, what is within the law, and come up with very clear system that will be followed by any persons who are demonstrators. The only thing we cannot do as police is to get in between the two political parties. You've seen the behavior of politicians in the past. Today they are enemies, tomorrow they are friends. So us, we cannot afford to get in between, but because we remain civil servants. We have officers who have served in all the four with all the 4 presidents who have been there. And we don't want a situation where we become a scapegoat, that politicians want to do their things and get away with them. And the best thing is, what I can say is that it is important that we don't get into the level of civil disobedience, because it's very expensive and it is very costly. It is very painful when we go to the level of civil disobedience, because most likely you are going to meet the police on the wrong side of the law.
On Monday, while the police justified in closing the city, they went and blocked people from coming from Kibera, from more of the police.
Yes. What justified that was the fact that the Inspector General stated very clearly that no police station in the country had been notified of the pending demonstrations, and he declared it unlawful. Once the Inspector General declared it unlawful, it was the duty of the police officers to ensure that the demonstrators weren't allowed into town.
Okay, let me just talk about Kibera. And Kibera has got a special place in all this. Kibera is also people's homes, in addition to whatever else it is. People live there with their families, small little kids and so on and so forth. It happens also because of the quality of housing in Kibera. There's huge amounts of vulnerability to whatever happens around you. You don't have big, huge concrete walls and a huge compound where you're going to hide. You've got very flimsy walls and no compound at all, no space to yourself. So the moment police do lockdown tactics in places like Kibera, you're basically taking riots to innocent people. You've got a huge population that lives in Kibera, and you are attacking people in their own homes. So it is a huge contempt for the poor. You're telling the poor, because some of yourselves are the people who are going to come out and riot, we are going to lock you down, all of you, and subject your kids and everybody to whatever may happen in your own bedrooms and living rooms. That's what it is contempt for the poor.
If I'm not aware that is what happened in Kibera.
It is what happened in Kibera.
In the front page pictures yesterday,
if it happened, so in communication, you can send a message by putting that picture. There's a message you are sending, and I don't want to dispute it. What I'm saying is that if it so happened, and that's why I'm saying that we are a growing country, and where areas where you think are gray, that things have not happened appropriately, then the concerned persons who are earning salaries in terms of oversight ought to look at them and come up with discussions, not condemnation. Because you see, when you feel a mistake has happened, as you are raising it, on the manner in which Kibera was condoned, there could have been a very good reason as to why the police cordoned Kibera.
Why did they do
that? There can be a good reason. Okay, let me just say this. If you are told, leave town because that is a riot area and so on and so forth, stay in your home. Your home happens to be Kibera, but the police are in your living room. So you leave your living room and go where? The police are in your living room with their small kids, and there's a fight going on in your living room by the police, not by the police themselves.
So you are in Kibera and you saw policemen in people's living rooms with their children.
But
no, my dear brother, you are in Kibera.
The footage we've seen.
No, you are in Kibera, and you saw people in the living room, with policemen in people's living room with their children. No, that's what you have said. Yes, that is what happened.
Okay, but maybe that didn't happen. But what Kigoro is saying is the lockdown that happened in Kibera that affected the people in Kibera.
Sir, Kigoro said a very clear thing. Policemen were in living room with people's children in Kibera.
Let's go beyond that. Not literally, but what he's saying is, first, let me ask you, why did that have to happen in Kibera? Not living rooms, but people, the police cordoning of
fine. I want to be very honest. I've not scrutinized and gotten to know where the Nairobi Area Command chose on that. What I want to believe, I can hypothesize, is that there could have been a report on maybe what could happen in Kibera, and there was reason maybe to have policemen. You've just heard him say that we were in Uhuru Park, and we supported the presence of the people, and nothing happened. We can still be in Kibera as long as there is no bad action that we have taken. But if you see maybe people putting bonfires on the road and so on, because where that girl was running, I saw it on the paper, there was a huge bonfire. Who put it? And why? If there was no riot that needed police presence,
isn't it possible?
Who put that huge fire, and why was it put there? Is it because somebody saw a policeman standing in Kibera and therefore he decided to put a huge fire?
This is what happens.
I need to be corrected.
This is what happens traditionally in poor neighborhoods. It happens in Kibera. It also happens in Mathare. It happens in Kisumu, in Manyata, and places like that during 2007. When the police come to your neighborhood, I mean, a lot of people who live in better circumstances than people who live in the poor neighborhoods, you've got options. First of all, you've got maybe a larger compound, and you've got a gate, and so on and so forth. So you're fine. You're barricaded from whatever happens outside there. Then secondly, there's a difference between your residence and the space out there.
Yes.
But Kibera happens to be people's residence, a large number of people, small little kids and families, and so on and so forth. The moment you bring a lockdown situation, it is one collective punishment. You're saying because of the sins of some people who may emerge from here to go to town to go and cause protest, we're going to lock old people, young people down here, and the moment you confine people and stop daily activity from going on, you have these reactions that are coming from the people are saying, so you feel
put fire. So you put fire on the road.
No, so that's those types of responses come of people putting fire on the road. The police respond to that. Innocent people are caught in between that situation. They are the only ones who suffer because they are not necessarily able-bodied. They are probably also very young. So it is a very prejudicial way of policing. It is a way that says that people who are of this character, who live in this neighborhood, you are presumed to be criminals. So we are going to lock all of you down until this day passes.
You are inciting the public and making it worse.
But the point Kigoro is making, Charles, what Kigoro is saying is, it's actually, what you're doing is, it's again, you've been using the word blanket. There should not be blanket discrimination of the police. Again, he's saying, like blanket discrimination of everyone living in Kibera if you're condoning the whole of Kibera.
When you send police officers, when there's presence of police officers, are you cordoning off? You want to tell me there were no movements in Kibera? Nobody left Kibera for town. No children went to school. Nobody was selling boga in Kibera.
Okay.
No. I want you to tell me that. You know, the way you are putting it is as if nobody went to work from Kibera. No Mama Boga was selling boga in Kibera. No shop was opened in Kibera. I don't even know how these people who are putting fires on the road then walked to the road and put fire while police had cordoned Kibera. I think in terms of I think as Kenyans we must be responsible. Bwana Kegoro, your level is so high that everybody who listens to you wants to take you to be a very serious person and to trust on you. Don't put the public against the police.
Let's say this.
What you are doing is very dangerous.
All of us
for public order.
Let me say this. And all of us need better facts than we have on this set. But one of the facts that that we all have is that the tactics that have been used for crowd containment in Kibera need a significant amount of review. They constitute collective punishment for people. They constitute a profiling of a section of the city. And if you're going to police effectively in an already very crowded area with people who live there with mixed intentions, you're going to have to review the policing tactics in a manner that responds to the fact that you've got vulnerable members of the population, young kids and older people, as well as the possibility of people who protest or riot, all of them living together. You've got to have a more discriminatory
so are you speaking as a Kenyan and honest, or you are speaking on the background of the work you do and earns your salary?
I'm speaking as an honest Kenyan.
I think these are very
he's raising a concern. I mean, just respond to what he's saying.
Yes, it's in order to protect everyone. It's in order. But trying to portray that we target Kibera and lock them up and put them in a situation where they cannot go to work, they cannot go to school, is not honest.
Okay.
I think there has to be appreciation, Charles, that Kibera, we have history. There's a place that is troublesome, turbulent usually. And the people there have suffered.
Exactly. Now what you are saying, now that is why I was asking him if he's a Kenyan and he understands the situation of what we are talking about.
Yeah, but
fortunately, I'm a public officer, Nani. I cannot be a number. I'm a public officer, and I must be in a position to unite the country, not to destroy the country, not to incite people.
I mean, I think what
fortunately, maybe me, I've lived in Kibera, him, he has not. And I have relatives there, and he does not.
Okay,
that is a little.
I should even be more sympathetic.
What I'm suggesting is that, and which I think Kigoro is trying to put across, is that we have to be sensitive to that particular citizenry that lives in Kibera.
That is true.
Because they've had history, there have been, you know, exchanges, turbulent fights and so forth.
Yeah.
So the image that those people have of the police when they see them is fear. So they cower, life is paralyzed. Let's start from that. You and I, Charles, know that. Police are not necessarily.
How come there is no fear at night?
They're not necessarily.
How come there will be no fear tonight when we have police officers patrolling Kibera?
Yes, so they
are very excited. We take tea with them. I can take you tonight to Kibera and see the police patrolling. How come
Charles, that is different.
Yeah.
As opposed to a day when they know there are going to be demonstrations. And normally, what happens when
the day they know they want to do wrong things?
They who? You see now again, that is the
no, that is what you are saying. They.
That's what I'm saying.
You said they.
People know in Kibera there are demonstrations today, and they know what happens at the end of demonstrations. They end up with fights and riots and whatnot. So if you are going to provide a cover, security cover, you need to sensitize them. You need to reach out to them and say, look, today we are here, we want to talk to you, we want to work with you, we want to make sure nothing happens that normally happens, so that they don't see you and see terror. You get? So there is a certain moderation that we are trying to look for.
Deploy police officers?
Let me move on from there. I wanted to address something else because Charles is digging in.
No, before you go there, I want to...
before anybody speaks, they're taking a break then. But first, I'll read some two texts here. Susan in Juja says, aren't uniformed police officers human beings who fight for their rights, because human rights don't speak in case a police officer is killed by a mob in their line of duty? That accusation has always been there, and I'd like you to respond to it when you come back. That rights group do not they never speak about the police. When police have casualties, they only speak for the people. And then we have somebody who says, police, stop blaming the police. If they don't act, we condemn them. Police officers are brothers and we treat them as if they come from Jupiter. That is Hassan in Nanyuki. And this one I'd like you to respond very briefly because you're taking a break. Somebody says, the police has also failed to show us, like, these are the individuals who are looting businesses during the protest, so arrest them. So the thing is that he's saying, if you fail to show them, so how should the public have trust that the police we have is for all of us?
Exactly. So you want me to respond to that? I think there are people who are shown complaining that their shops were looted. I don't think we again need to parade them and show Kenyans these are the looters.
Now what he's asking is, if the police has been saying sometimes it's justified when people go up, they move from the limits of the protests.
Yes.
And people say, the police say, you know, we had to do A, B, C, D.
Yes.
What this person is saying, why can't the police show us A, B, C, D are the people who looted, if they were there?
Yeah, that's why I've answered you, that there are persons who actually complained that their shops were looted.
So
and then you don't expect
the police should arrest them.
Yes, there are a number of people who are arrested and they have been charged before court. There are a number of people who have been charged before court.
And for...
Yes.
Okay.
There are a number of people who have been charged before.
We're taking a break now on Cheche. Keep talking to us on #242 on Twitter using the hashtag Cheche. A lot of comments coming in, and of course when we come back we'll be winding up with our final comments.